Hey everyone, I'm excited to bring you along on this journey today because we are going somewhere you are not going to want to miss. We are headed to a wheelchair basketball tournament, and yes, I am playing, and this is my second season doing it, but this is the first tournament of this season, and I wanted to take this time to kind of explain what it was, how it's different than able-bodied basketball, and how it's very similar to it. And then also their classification system, how that works, and then how do you even find a team and what equipment do you use, and also how can you even afford the equipment to do it, because we're not talking about just your average pair of Jordans that will cost you a pretty penny. We're talking about a sports wheelchair, and those can cost thousands of dollars. But I'm going to tell you some different things out there that might be available for you in order to get this equipment and try out this new way of adaptive sports. You're going to want to watch this. It's going to be interesting. So you just saw some clips from wheelchair basketball play, and I want to talk a little bit more about what you saw, what was going on. So wheelchair basketball is very similar to able-bodied basketball in some ways, but it does have its key differences. Obviously, you're in a wheelchair, not running up and down the court on your legs. But with this, you have the same concepts, the same strategy as normal basketball. Your goal, obviously, is to get more points and to score more than the other team. Okay. Now, the components for basketball. You've got dribbling, passing, shooting, pivoting. You got all those things. There are similarities and differences. We do all of those things. Some of them in a slightly different way. So shooting, obviously we're going to do shooting the same. Just as I mentioned, it is an upper body thing. We don't get our power from our legs. We got to be stronger in our arms and our core to be able to do it, because we have no physical advantage of using the legs to push us up. And then you have dribbling. Dribbling, yes, we still have to dribble. We can left or right hand. The one thing, though, that is different is we don't have double dribbles. So, double dribble, obviously, you dribble, you pick up the ball, and then you dribble again. In normal basketball, you can't do that. Once you pick up the ball after a dribble, you have to either pass or shoot, or it's called a double dribble. In wheelchair basketball, obviously, you've got to be able to push with your hands, but then you've got to dribble. So how does that work? This is the thing that I'm still learning to do. I'm definitely not like your point guard. I can get it up and down the court, but sometimes it doesn't look too pretty. But so what you can do is you can push 2 times. Now, when I say you can push 2 times, but then you have to dribble, pass, or shoot. So when you push, it can be with both hands, that counts as 1. It can be with one hand, that counts as 1. Or it can be with the other hand, that counts as 1. Any combination, 2 hands, 1 hand, any combination of 2 pushes, after that, you have to dribble the ball. So example, I am pushing 1, 2. At that point, I've got to dribble the ball. I can dribble it 1 time, 2 times, as many times as I want. I just have to at least dribble the ball. And then I can go back to pushing 1, 2, dribble the ball again. So it takes some coordination to be able to get this rhythm going, because you're still trying to project forward, but also maybe turn as you go to avoid a defender, fake them out, those kind of things. But now you've got the additional agility and coordination of not only just dribbling the ball, but timing it to dribble and push your wheelchair at the same time, which is it's a harder thing to learn to do, because for those that were not in a wheelchair their entire life, they're still getting used to how to propel and push a wheelchair. But then also you think that I'm trying to coordinate two activities. It's kind of like, patting your head, rubbing your stomach kind of thing. Can you do it? It takes some practice. For me, it is, at least. You have picks. You can sit picks and screens, females like this, men like this, where you are blocking somebody. Like, you get right beside a defender and your offensive player uses you as kind of a shield, and they brush off, and now they're free. You do the same thing in wheelchair basketball. Now, for pivots, we can do a pivot the same. Now, our pivots do not count as a push. So if I'm wheeling down and I want to do a pivot, I can go 1, 2, but then I stop and it turns me around. That last time did not count as a push. So that was 2 pushes, and I can still do a pivot like normal basketball, but then I have to dribble, shoot, pass, those kind of things. The rules, just like for regular basketball, you've got different rules depending on the divisions and the age groups. Youth is not going to have the same rules as NBA, obviously. Well, most of the time, wheelchair basketball follows with the NCAA, like the kind of college level basketball, but it does have some similarities with rules with the NBA. So let's go over those. Normal court size for NCAA and NBA, same as that, 94 foot by 50 foot. And then for the free throw line, same thing, 15 foot. For the three-point line, we go with the NCAA regulation, which is the 22 foot. The key is like NCAA, it's 12 foot. And then we have 5 players, so it's 5 on 5. We do have a shot clock, meaning that we have to get our shot off, obviously, in that amount of time, or it's a turnover to the other team. Our shot clock is 30 seconds, like NCAA. We have 10 seconds to get it down the court. So, like, from one side to half court, if we don't get over that, then we have a half court violation. We have quarters like the NBA. We're not 12 minutes, it's 10-minute quarters. And there's 4 of those, unlike the NCAA, which just has the 2 halftimes. Our jump balls or positional changes, those are like the NCAA, and the fact that we alternate. We do a jump ball. Yes, we do the one where you jump off in the middle, but obviously you aren't jumping off. So you have the 2 wheelchairs beside each other in the middle, and the ones jumping for the ball, they reach up and try to flick the ball. Instead of jumping, it's just a reach. For positional jump balls, after the initial one, whoever didn't win it at the beginning of the game, when there is one, that other team is awarded the ball, and then it alternates back and forth throughout the game, like normal rules for NCAA. Sometimes when people ask what's wheelchair basketball like, I will say it's like normal basketball, but like bumper cars. And it kind of is. Are you technically supposed to ram people and bump people? No, you're not. You're supposed to try to stop and prevent contact, but you're constantly going to be in contact with each other. Just like in basketball, when, you run up and you're touching somebody, you're hitting somebody with your body, contact is made. It is a non-contact sport, but there's plenty of contact to be made if you've ever played it. Same thing with wheelchair basketball. Your wheelchair is a part of your body. So what do you think is going to happen? People are clanging and clanging all the time. And the key is with fouls is you have to be showing that you're trying to intentionally stop and you are in control of your wheelchair. Just like you can be in control of your body, control of your car, you should be in control of your wheelchair. It's not just a free-for-all bumper car, rally, demolition derby kind of thing. you can't just go ram into somebody and expect, that to be okay. So obviously we do have charges. So if the defender is a set position and you're offense player and you run into them, that is a charge, offensive foul. If you are guarding the person and you're bumping them with your car, with your wheelchair, then that is a foul. Or if you run into somebody that is handling the ball, then that is a foul. If you are using your wheelchair to, like, the front plate of it, this part right here, if you're using that and you're wedging it between somebody's back wheels right here, or if you're, backing up into somebody, any of those things where you're using your wheelchair to ram in or for an advantage to pin somebody, all of those are fouls as well. Then we also have 5 fouls. We do have different rules with team fouls than NCAA. We are following NBA kind of rules in which the 5th foul creates a bonus. Team fouls, collective ones, reset every quarter. 5th foul, you get a bonus, 2 free throw shots. Or you can get a physical advantage foul. And remember how I said we have the 5 personal fouls, which is the same as basketball? We do have something called a physical advantage foul. And these are where you're using your wheelchair or some part of your body to gain that physical advantage over another player. You can't come out of your seat. These are rules for general play with wheelchair basketball. You are attached to the wheelchair. It is your body. And with that, you get 3 physical advantage fouls a game. Now, those count towards your total number of personal fouls. So you still, once you have 5 total, you're out. But if you have 3 actual physical advantage fouls, you're automatically out. So let's say you can have 2 advantage fouls and 3 other personal fouls, and you're out. Or you can have 3 physical advantage fouls and you're out. They automatically stop it at that point. Doesn't matter the 5 foul rule. As far as lane violations, we still have 3 seconds. You can't be within the lane or the paint for greater than 3 seconds, and they will call you on this. Now, the key is you have to be trying to get out. If wheelchairs create a lot more congestion than just, getting out because you're able to squeeze out. Wheelchairs, you've got all these people in one area, and sometimes you can get trapped. And most of the time, if the ref sees you trying to willingly get out of the paint, they're not going to call you. However, if you're sitting there taking up camp, no one's blocking you, then you're going to get a call. Now, if somebody intentionally blocks you from the defense, blocks you in the lane, then that is not your fault, and the ref will see that. But the key is 3 seconds, get out of the lane. Don't stay in there like normal basketball. We have the same scoring as normal basketball. We have the 2-point and the 3-point and then the free throw. For the free throw, yes, it is still 15 feet, the normal distance from the goal. The goal is still 10 foot. Now you're just a little lower. So you definitely have to have a lot more upper body strength for wheelchair basketball, not only to will yourself because those are your new legs, but you have to use them to be able to shoot because you're at a greater disadvantage. You're lower to the ground. And what do they tell you in normal basketball? I played for years, and everybody said, use your legs when you shoot. Use your legs, and then just use your arms for finesse. Well, now you've got to use your torso, your core, your body, your arms for power because you don't have your legs. So with the free throw and the 3-point line, you have different parts of your wheelchair. You have these front wheels right here, and then you have your bigger wheels, and then you have your tip wheels. So with these front wheels and the big wheels, when you are lining up at the free throw line or you're behind the 3-point line, your big wheels have to be behind the line. The little tiny wheels in the front, those can be over the line, but the big wheels have to actually be behind the line. And that's the marker for whether or not they count it as a 3-point or it's a valid free throw. For the lineup of the free throw, we line up the exact same way in normal basketball. Our wheelchairs fit right in the middle between the lines, and we alternate and go back for the free throw. For timeouts, we are like the NBA. We have 2 60-second timeouts, 3 30-second timeouts that we're allowed per game. However, there are some additional timeouts that do not count towards those total of 5 timeouts you get per game. And that is for equipment. Equipment needs your wheelchair. Sometimes the tire pops, sometimes something breaks, a strap breaks, something comes loose, and you have to take a time out and fix an equipment. You get 45 seconds to do that. They'll warn you 15 seconds towards the end, and you have to get back on the court. Now, if you need a little bit longer than the 45 seconds, your team can at that point request an additional timeout, and that would count off one of their timeouts. But the initial 45-second equipment timeout to fix it, get a hold of whatever needs you need, then they don't count that towards your timeouts. Now, the other thing is falling out of your chair. Yes, it happens a lot. And some people are able to just use their upper body and then they pop back up, and it was that easy. Me personally, this is my second season doing it, and I'm definitely not strong enough or experienced enough to do that. So the few times that I've fallen out of my chair during the game, 2 things happen. If you are in the middle of play, like one time I went up for a rebound and my chair tilted back and I fell back in the lane. At that, the refs immediately stopped the game. And I was able to get my teammates or whoever I needed, bystanders, to help get me off the floor and back into my chair. Now, another time, there was somebody else that fell, and they fell in the back court. So everybody else was playing down here, and they fell back here. And when they fell, the referees didn't stop the game. And you think, well, why didn't they do that? Somebody's laying on the ground, and they can't get up. They can't move. Well, because they're not in the way of gameplay. And so if you're not in the way of gameplay and you're not injured, now, even if you're not in the way of gameplay, if you're visibly injured, they will stop it. But if you're not in the way of gameplay, you're not injured, they're not going to stop it until there is that natural break in the game or you become in the way of gameplay. So that is the timeouts. There are some, obviously, that we have standard, and then some additional ones because of equipment needs, chair needs, and then some because we fall out of our chair. It's just natural. Another technique that is used in wheelchair basketball that really surprised me my first set of tournaments, they do this thing called 1 out. And I was not ready for it because this is something I'd never seen before, or the concept wasn't something that you used a lot of times in regular basketball. You did have times where you really defended a person and trapped them here and there, but it's a lot different with wheelchair basketball. Not only like you're coming down the court, you've got some players that are faster, they can push faster, and some that are slower. Me, I'm not the fastest. So when I would start to come back on defense, one of their little fast offensive players would trap me in the backcourt. No matter how I tried to move around, it would trap me. And so then I would be like this, and I would be stuck down here on the other court, and they would be defending me. So now we've got 4-on-4, which makes the area less congested. And then once they get kind of set up, they kind of spread out the floor down here, the offense. And at a certain point, this player that's trapping me, he turns around, so I'm stuck behind him. And when I'm stuck behind him, he goes out and he goes down towards the basket and his teammate. So that is something that they would use a lot, where they would do the 1 out and then they would release. And at that release, that created an advantage of, a lopsided 5-on-4 play that you're doing. And then the big ultimate thing is wheelchairs create more of a congestion when you play basketball. I know when I played normal basketball, I was able to, I could see the floor. I'd be like, I need to be there and this is going to happen. And I could just see how things connected. I visually was able to get and see things other people weren't and think a step ahead. Same thing with wheelchair basketball. I can do that still. But the frustration is the fact in regular basketball, I'd be like, I know I need to get there, or they're about to pass that, and I could get there, and intercept the pass because I saw it coming. But in wheelchair basketball, you can't just squeeze in between people as easily. Yes, you can sometimes, especially if you're quicker and more skilled. But wheelchairs create more of a congestion because you've got a wider base contacting the floor and you've still got 10 people out on the floor and we're all fighting for position. So it's a little harder with that. You can't get to where you want as quick a lot of times with wheelchair basketball, especially if you're as, inexperienced as I am just starting out. So in this next video, I'm going to talk about who can play basketball because you'd be surprised. You don't have to be wheelchair bound. There are other things that do qualify you, and I'll talk about that. I'll talk about the difference in divisions, and then I also will talk about something very unique to wheelchair basketball called a classification system. But I'll explain how that is, but it's based on disability, and you get a rating, kind of like, I guess you would call it a handicap. Now, talking about the wheelchair, then the third video, I will go in depth about your wheelchair, what type you need, what features you need, and different adjustments you can get. And then also remember that bonus of how to actually afford one because they are so crazy expensive. So make sure you watch the other two, which will go into who can play, the classification system, and then the third one being the equipment and your wheelchair that you need. So I'll see you in the next video.